I looked on, as the mob stormed the Tuileries Palace. It was August 10, 1792, and the revolution was in full swing. From the crowd, I saw Marie Antoinette being pulled away from her children and taken away in a wagon. It was a chaotic scene, but all I could think was that those at the top were poor creatures, and that the people were not worth the trouble taken in winning their favor. Later, I watched as Marie Antoinette was led to the guillotine. The blade fell and the executioner held her head up for all to see. Robespierre's voice boomed, accusing her of treason before the crowd as they roared in approval. Robespierre, a man who believed terror is nothing other than justice, severe, inflexible, was a powerful figure. My friends, Salicidi and Junot, were with me at the Jacobin Club when Paul Barras, a man I found to be rather effeminate, approached me. He spoke of the war with Europe and the English, and when he learned that I had been suppressing food riots, he questioned my military history. He informed me that the British Navy had taken my home island of Corsica and the port of Toulon. It was here that I had my first true strategic insight. I told Barras that we didn't need to recapture the entire town, but rather the harbor. If we could take the fort that dominated the harbor, the city would be forced to surrender. I was sent to Toulon where I studied the British ships and prepared for ambush. Our troops were shabby and our cannons were rusted. I knew I had to do something drastic. My men and I worked tirelessly, digging up old metal and cannonballs from the riverbank, melting them down, and forging new artillery. On the night of December 16, 1793, we moved into position. The British guards were carousing, so we were able to set a keg of powder by their wall. I gave the signal, and the explosion blew the wall open as all the mortars launched at once. Our infantry, with their ladders, scaled the walls, and a chaotic battle ensued. As I charged forward on my horse, a cannonball hit it, killing it instantly. I fought with an Irish sergeant, but a French foot soldier killed him, and I found my way to the fort wall. From there, I ordered the cannons to fire on the British fleet. They pulled away in chaos, and some even burned. For my success, I was awarded the title of Brigadier General. I sent the cannonball that killed my horse to Mother, as a gift. Robespierre's voice, no longer the voice of reason, was forcibly removed from his seat in the council. Instead of facing mob justice, he shot himself, better that way than dying like a dog. The prisoners were freed, 41,500 of them, she included. My life took another turn when I met Josephine. I first saw her at a party called the Victims' Ball. She was wearing a translucent dress and a red ribbon around her throat, a macabre fashion statement that evoked the guillotine. She noticed me staring and approached me. I introduced myself as the Brigadier General who led the French victory at Toulon. The next day, her son, Eugene, came to me, asking for his father's saber back, which had been confiscated after his father was sentenced to die. I told him I couldn't return it to a private citizen, but then I went to the storage room and took one for him, bringing it to Josephine's home. It was there I met her daughter, Hortense. Josephine and I met at a cafe. I didn't feel the need to fill the silence with words. She simply smiled at me, revealing her pale and beautiful teeth. Later, we had a discussion about her past and how she ended up with her children. She asked if her past isn't a bother to me. I said it wasn't, something I would come to regret later. The citizens started another rebellion. After all, there was no clear sense of leadership, so as usual, I was asked to handle it. In October 1795, the protesters marched towards us with their anger. I used cannons to scare the people and they never thought of another protest. Josephine and I got married in court. During our wedding celebration, she was busy flirting with another man, on the same table I was, without a care in the world. Our love grew, but while I was away on campaign in Egypt, she was in the arms of her lover. I grew frustrated with her lack of letters, but my aide, Junot, told me she had a lover named Hippolyte Charles. I didn't believe it at first, but then, in a fit of rage, I ordered frigates to take me back to Paris. When I arrived, I was humiliated when I saw a newspaper cartoon of her having sex with her lover under my war table. When I got home, she was not there. She had left to meet me in Lyon, even though the whole of France knew of my arrival. When she finally returned, she found her belongings on the street and the door locked. I finally let her in and said, "You can't help yourself. You're a beast and I feel sorry for you." She begged me not to leave her, but I told her that a promise was nothing. When things had calmed down, I also confessed that I had affairs while I was away, but did not love the women, and they were prettier than her because they cried less. The consul questioned my early return. I responded that the current state of France left a lot to be desired, hence my return. Baron came to my home to propose a coup d'etat. So we rounded the consul up, and forced them into early retirement. Some people fought back, even going as far as to kill me, but with power, you can make anyone agreeable. And just like that, I was the new governor. Status, respect, wealth, I had it all, but it wasn't enough. I tried to form an alliance with the Russians, but the only way to get their attention was to become king. So I did. At home, Josephine and I tried countless of times to bear a child, but to no avail. My counsel suggested a divorce if she didn't bear me an heir and reluctantly considered it. I went to war with the Russians, and I won the decisive battle. Many of them died that day, and that was enough for them to form an alliance. Back at home, my mother wanted to put our birthless marriage mystery to rest. I slept with an 18-year-old virgin to test my fertility, and she became pregnant. Eventually, our marriage ended. Josephine told me she knew about my illegitimate child and offered to make the divorce easy. She signed the papers, but when it was time for her to read a declaration about her inability to have children, she could not continue. She eventually did, and we signed the divorce papers. She was moved into her own estate, and I told her she must take care of her health and asked her to write to me every day. As emperor, I married a 19-year-old Austrian, Marie-Louise, and months later, my son, Napoleon, the King of Rome, was born. Later, I went to introduce my son to Josephine, and she told him, "Sweet child, one day you will know what I have sacrificed for you." I decided to invade Russia. Tsar Alexander betrayed our alliance and forced my hand. The Battle of Borodino was the most terrible of all my battles, one that cost me 28,000 soldiers, but in the end, I won. I wrote to Josephine that my soldiers had grown sick of war, but the very danger pushes us on to Moscow. When we arrived in Moscow, we found the city empty, and the Russians had set the city on fire. The snow began to fall, and the Russian winter had arrived. I sent 600,000 men to Russia, and 40,000 men returned. Therefore, I was exiled to the island of Elba. While exiled, Josephine started another relationship with Tsar Alexander. I was tired of being exiled, so I came back to claim what was rightfully mine. When I got to her home, she was already dead. Josephine died of diphtheria. In March 1815, at the Congress of Vienna, the British, Russian, French, Austrian and Dutch leaders met to form an army to dethrone me from power. 500,000 men from the United Nations against my 125,000 soldiers. The end of my story came at the Battle of Waterloo. We were in a grim battle against the British. We fought with everything we had, but in the end, they were just better prepared than I was. I was exiled once again, this time, to the volcanic island of St. Helena. I spent 6 years there, before I drew my last breath.